right, let's go ahead and get into it. So we're going to get into the second episode, or this third episode, when it comes to the United States versus Sean Diddy Combs. We've got Kid Cudi. As y'all know, he was on the stand last week, had some interesting things to say about his relationship with ClassE, his relationship with Diddy, and what happened after the incident with somebody, we don't know who, trying to burn up his car. Let's talk about it. Here we go. And shout out to TMZ for this amazing
It was the
series.
showdown of showdowns in week 3 of the Diddy trial. Kid Cudi, far and away, the witness prosecutors are counting on
let me change
to
this so y'all
nail
can
Diddy
see.
on racketeering charges.
There you go.
He took the stand Thursday, and his testimony, explosive.
Cudi says that Diddy broke into his house and lit his car on fire.
Look at that car.
This week's
Good
testimony
Lord.
was lurid for sure, and confusing, especially when the Punisher testified about freak-offs with Cassie and Diddy.
Oh,
I was
no.
confused why prosecutors called you,
I was actually confused myself.
and there was dramatic testimony about Diddy gunning for Suge Knight.
If he'd have confronted me and he had a gun, best believe he's going to have to use it.
Diddy took a hit when Cassie's mom testified. He straight up blackmailed her. But the defense scored big when Danity Kane singer Don Richard fell apart on the stand.
Diddy's defense lawyers ate Dawn Richard's lunch when she was on the witness stand,
no.
accusing her of changing her testimony often.
This is TMZ Presents United States versus Sean Combs inside the Diddy trial. And welcome. It was a mixed bag in this trial this week. The defense scored some big points, I think, but I think the prosecution did too. We're going to break it all down. We're going to have a couple of guests. We're going to have one guest who testified, and it's
We
unclear
got Joe,
why
Nancy
the
Grace,
prosecution would
Ebony K.
want him.
Williams.
And there was somebody else I spoke with, and it's unclear to me why the prosecution didn't want this person, because this person could be key in proving racketeering. So we're going to get into all of that. Let's introduce our guest, Nancy Grace, who is the host of Crime
Nancy's
Stories
so
with
funny.
Nancy Grace. Joe Tacopina, the celebrity lawyer, most recently won the ASAP Rocky criminal case in Los
Shout out to
Angeles.
Joe.
We have Ebony K. Williams, host of Equal Justice and Holding Court, and Ashley Banfield, host of Banfield on News Nation, and the host of Drop Dead Serious podcast. So, I want to start with Kid Cudi. Let me kind of set the stage here. So, Kid Cudi was dating Cassie after Cassie broke up with Diddy. And when Diddy found out, according to Kid Cudi, he got a phone call saying, "You better come over to your house because it's just been burglarized by one Sean Diddy Combs and an associate." And apparently, Diddy had gone inside and found some Chanel bags or Chanel
Allegedly.
presents. It was around Christmas time.
Not apparently.
Seems to me he was interested in finding out what Cudi was getting Cassie for Christmas. And then there was going to be a confrontation. Cudi decided, no, I'm not going to go over there because who knows whether Diddy is armed. So he files a police report. 12 days later, his car gets torched with a Molotov cocktail. And he believes it was Diddy who ordered that. So I want to start with this because there's more to it. But when you look at this, is it proof of racketeering, criminal conduct involving arson, guns?
Can they prove Diddy did
burglary,
it?
Or is it a jealous, crazed criminal boyfriend?
Well, you know, you left out a lot of very damning facts. Now, either Sean Combs, a.k.a. Diddy, is clairvoyant or he's a car bomber. Have you ever handled a Molotov cocktail case? Because I have. They are extremely
Nancy, here we go.
unpredictable, and I, having covered and prosecuted and investigated arson cases, can say without a doubt, dying by fire, not smoke inhalation, fire, burning to death, is the worst way to die.
Sounds like
now,
it.
think about it. 1 month, less than 1 month before Kid Cudi's car blew up, there you see it, that was from a Molotov cocktail, Sean Combs said, I'm going to blow up Cudi's car. Okay. Then amazingly, bam, 1 month later, his car is blown up with a Molotov. The significance, A, obviously, he masterminded it. unless he's clairvoyant, and I can't wait for Yorgos to try to claim that in court. But we've seen this before. For instance, in the Scott Peterson case, Scott Peterson says, this is going to be my first Christmas without my wife. She died. And bam, 2 weeks later, it was his first Christmas without his wife. She died because he killed her. Or O.J. Simpson has a clairvoyant dream that he killed Nicole because he did. Same thing here. Now, regarding the Molotov, why Kid Cudi? Because it goes to prove criminal enterprise. You think Diddy ran down to the quick stop and got his Coke bottle full of accelerant gasoline? No, he had somebody else do it.
What's the enterprise?
That
Is the enterprise
Exactly.
criminal enterprise.
There
What's
is
the
no,
enterprise?
A crazy,
there's no
jealous
enterprise.
boyfriend. That's what it makes it. This guy is a crazy. Look, proven in
Exactly,
this case,
Joe.
Diddy's a criminal. Proven in this case, Diddy's a bad guy. Proven in this case, he's a batterer and abuser and despicable. Proven. That is not racketeering. That's not RICO. This is not a RICO act. This is a jealous, crazed boyfriend. That doesn't make it a racketeering act. If that were the predicate for racketeering, a racketeering criminal enterprise, because a criminal enterprise for racketeering purposes has to be an enterprise that's established to commit crimes. This guy became a lunatic because he was jealous of his girlfriend dating somebody else, and he did some horrific things. Let's assume I'm sure he did bomb the car, right? And I'm sure he broke into the house and did all that stuff. That's a jealous boyfriend going off the rails. That's not RICO. That is not RICO in any way, shape, or form.
You know
How is
what,
it a
though? It is
RICO?
RICO if you get your staff members to do it, and the DNA on the Molotov
it's not.
cocktail
It
incident
doesn't-
showed it was
It
a
was-
woman. and
it
they
was
had
a
to- they
female.
had
It
not
could have been
able to
Cassie.
prove
They're
it
aiders
that
and
it
abettors
is
of
in
a
this-
felony. That doesn't
Okay, how
make it
about this,
RICO.
Joe? How about this? That break-in at Kid Cudi's house, Capricorn Clark, who was his assistant, was shoved in. She testified, she's going to testify, that she shoved into a car and ordered to go there to that break-in. And she's so worried about this break-in, she's calling Kid Cudi to say, oh, God, Diddy's in your house. And there's another staff assistant who's involved with that as well. That is RICO. When you use your
That's not
enterprise and
RICO.
your staff
They're not even doing
order
it with
your
consent.
staff to carry out
Ordering your
crimes,
staff
that's
is not
RICO.
racketeering.
You're looking
Racketeering
at
means you have
crazy,
to have another
Tacopina.
person who's joining in this criminal enterprise.
Dial it down.
Those
You know
people don't
what,
wanna be there.
Tacopina? You have officially joined the itty bitty ditty committee. I think you know what I'm talking about. This isn't just a Tootsie Roll. This is a Tootsie Roll.
Oh my gosh, this lady's
And
crazy.
I'm gonna send this to you. Congratulations.
that.
You're an itty bitty
That's a
ditty.
low blow, Nancy. Come on.
would
Joe,
love to
you
eat
know
that
what,
Tootsie Roll
Harvey, let me
right
just
now.
also add this
Sorry.
fact. What about the fact
checking.
that what Sean Combs did, like you said, he probably did blow up the car with the Molotov cocktail. He probably did break into the house. And we're forgetting about the dog, by the way, that he actually terrorized the poor dog,
Horrible
locked
guy.
the dog in the
Check.
bathroom. Horrible. And we know that's that psychological warfare that we keep hearing about with Sean Diddy Combs in this trial.
where's the
trying to
RICO,
show
though?
there is nowhere and nobody I can't touch to get to you if I want to show my influence, control, and domain. But here's the thing, Joe. What about the fact that I believe, and this is what the prosecution is certainly arguing, that all of this was done not only because he's crazy and jealous, that is true, but also to keep Cassie from leaving him. That is where now we're broaching the coercive, controlling nature of what the prosecution is putting
gonna be
under
tough.
the RICO count in the original indictment.
But Ebony, but the problem with
Preventing a
hold
girl
on,
from leaving you
hold
is not
on.
a racketeering crime.
The problem with that is, according to Kid Cudi's testimony, Cassie was actually playing Diddy and Cudi by saying
the
she was
way.
dating both. Hold on, though. I want to.
All right, blame her.
I want
She's the one.
She
Hey, guys,
said
the
it,
reason
Nancy.
she's
Why
the
does
bad
made her a
guy.
liar. Kid Cudi also made her a liar to that jury.
Why do when we hold someone accountable for their part in something that happened, it's considered blaming them? It's not blame. It is not blame that Cassie admitted and Kid Cudi testified that she did certain things. So we're not saying we're trying to justify what Diddy did. We know Diddy's a horrible monster and he messed up. But also that means that Cassie, based on what she testified to, based on what Cudi said, she had a part in some of the things that happened. You can't just exclude that. And that's what's frustrating to me. Come on,
So
man.
I want to read to you.
A liar.
I want to read and show you some of the things that were.
The St. Louis Battlehawks.
Oh, my bad, guys. We got a commercial, so we're gonna take a break here. But let me know what y'all think about that, because I see a lot of people who are watching this trial say that you can't say anything about Cassie. Poor Cassie. Oh, it was terrible. When you've got Kid Cudi who goes up on the stand and say, yeah, she was trying to play me. I don't even think she wanted to be with me like that. I don't know if she was using me as an escape. I don't know if she was just trying to get away from Diddy, whatever the situation was. And then she ended up going back to him in the first place. Now, if you want to say it's because of what he did, okay, maybe we can get into that. And as I said, I think that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough for him to fight on the coercive part in this instance specifically. But again, you still have so many instances of Cassie saying she wanted to be there. She was back and forth. She wanted to be with Diddy because he was the only one that could bring out a certain side of her. So I don't see how we could just leave Cassie out of this and just pretend like, oh, well, poor Cassie. She didn't have any say in any of this. I don't know. Let's see.
At Diddy's Miami mansion on Star Island during the raid. And again, going to RICO, guns, I get it, guns and magazines. But we're talking drugs, okay. But what about baby oil, Astroglide, sex toys, high heels? Isn't the prosecution just throwing in the kitchen sink and in doing so diluting maybe the core of what they've got? I mean, the jurors are looking at Astroglide and high heels?
No, it's where was the Astroglide
can
and the
you
high
guys
heels? It is
hear
within a few
yourself?
feet.
You're
It is within a few
explaining
feet of two
away every
AK-47s.
felony.
This is not a
This
record.
is
He's not charged
important.
with drug
Guys,
dealing.
Hold on.
The media has gone bananas over the sexy aspects of this, but the prosecution was very specific about this. Within feet of all the things that you need for the Freakoffs that have been proven in a pattern everywhere else, the Astroglide, the baby oil, the high heels, and the ropes, and no one even mentioned the ropes and the handcuffs. Within feet of those products were 2 illegal AKs with the serial numbers scratched out. And the prosecution
the magazines,
said
not the not the guns.
Serial
the
numbers were
magazines.
not scratched out.
They were
serial
scratched
numbers
out in the
were scratched
magazines.
out on 2 AKs found at that house,
No,
according
on the
to
magazines, not on the guns.
All right, testified in that trial by the agent was that 2 AKs were found in that house and in the guest house. And they are saying that the proximity of those weapons to those sexual toys means that they easily were used in the coercive nature of the Freakoffs. And I think that's a powerful argument to make.
That's wild. So if you have a gun, never mind. I can't say that. This is a family show. I try to keep it a family show. But because the gun was near those type of things that you're allowed to say, oh, well, that could have possibly been used to force somebody to do something. Hey, we're here in the South, guys. Y'all know what goes on in the bedroom of married people, single people. Do any of you have, and don't say yes in the chat or in the comments, but do any of you have a weapon near where you participate in certain adult activities? I think a lot of us would say yes. So you're saying because of that, it could have been used as a coercive tool or to force somebody to do something? Come on. Boy, this law is crazy.
They were stored together. That doesn't make it a racketeering act. Are you, come on, really? Because they were stored next to each other, that means they were part of a RICO act together?
Well, and also,
but
but also, Ashley, my understanding is these Freakoffs occurred not at his home.
Not
it
at his
occurred
home.
at hotels.
Yeah,
Right.
Miami,
They were happening everywhere.
LA.
They showed
So they were in
that the
close
master
proximity in a place
bathroom
where you
was
never had a
stocked.
Freakoff.
They showed the master bathroom was stocked just like every other hotel room with all of those implements, the candles and the
But you just
lipstick
said,
and
Ashley,
the heels
that
and the
close
Astroglide
proximity
and the
in his
baby
home
oil.
of the guns and the baby oil.
Joe Tacopina, how many bottles of baby oil do you have in your bathroom?
You didn't have a
I
Freakoff
have
there.
one and it's lasted 15 years. Honestly, actually 20 because my kid's 20 years old. So I'm telling you, if you have
She's
20
got baby
bottles
oil in her
of baby
bathroom?
oil and 20 bottles of Astroglide in your closet, it ain't being used for just regular use.
Okay.
Listen,
do you
Ashley,
know?
I love your proximity argument, but and I actually think it's very nuanced and quite brilliant. The issue is, to Harvey's point of kind of throwing so much at the jury, are they going to, and not to disrespect them in any way, the jurors, but are they, I think it's a tall order to ask the jurors to parse out and keep their eye on so many moving pieces of evidence versus having them focus on what kind of feels more like traditional RICO, the guns, the weapons, the drugs, things of this nature. I think it's so...
Is anybody testifying that the guns were used to force them to do something like that? Or are they saying because of the proximity, then that goes into the RICO? Because I don't think we've heard anybody testify that the guns were directly, you know, they didn't hold someone didn't hold the gun to another person's head and say, hey, make sure you do this or it's going to be ugly. It's weird.
It's easy to get distracted by the salacious nature of the
unless you say
7-inch heels
pattern.
and the Astroglide.
You know, unless you tell that jury, you know what, folks, I'm sorry you've been, you know, bombarded with a parade of these awfuls and parade of these horribles, but it is our job as prosecutors to prove a pattern. And sadly, in the case of Diddy, that's what this shows. Every single
Pattern of
place he went,
racketeering,
every
not a
single
pattern.
place he was,
So,
there were
Nancy,
patterns of behavior.
racketeering.
Nancy,
Ashley.
I've been waiting all week to be able to talk to you about one of the witnesses. His name is Sheree Hayes, and he is known as the Punisher, who was
I don't know this
male
guy.
exotic dancer who first met Cassie and Diddy at the Trump International Hotel in New York. He went over there presumably for a birthday party.
Okay, we're going to get into the Punisher in a second, but before we do, I want to know what y'all think about this initial part with Kid Cudi and then the baby oil in the comments and in the chat. Should that play a part? If you're on the jury, how are you going to feel about the proximity? Is there enough to say that Diddy's most likely the one that burned or tried to burn Kid Cudi's car? And how does that play into the RICO? I want y'all to let me know.